Hello, and welcome to this session on the Excited and Engaged Special Needs Learner. My name is Lisa Sims, and I'm going to be your presenter today. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I have been homeschooling my special needs son for 5 years. Homeschooling was not my first choice, but when I couldn't find a suitable environment for him, it became the only choice. And along the way, I've been juggling working full time as an online educator for a university as well as homeschooling. And so along this journey, I've learned some things not only about myself, but my son and how he learns and how to keep him engaged. And today I just want to talk to you about what does it actually mean to be excited and engaged. And when we talk about homeschooling our children, everyone has their thoughts on what it is and how it should be. But when it comes to the special needs learner, they don't really fit into that box. A lot of homeschooling parents may use worksheets and things of that nature, but sometimes that just doesn't work for special needs learners. I had to find that out the hard way with my son. And so, along this 5 year journey, I've been homeschooling him since kindergarten, and now he's in fourth grade. And so I had a long time to figure out what wasn't working and see what was working. And I had to do a lot of studying and watching him and learn about learning styles, because when you have a child who's excited and engaged in learning, then you can get a lot accomplished. You're not fighting, and there's no tears, there's no meltdowns. It's just a pleasant environment for both you and your child. And I know in the beginning, we had a lot of crying, and because I didn't know what to do. And I read all the books, but sometimes, as I said, it's a lot of trial and error, and you got to just try what works. But once you get that child excited about learning, then it takes a lot of the stress off of you and the child. And so, one of the ways that you can actually get your special needs child excited about learning is to determine what their interests are. Now, my son has autism and sensory processing disorder and ADHD. So, trying to do something with him requires a lot of patience, and it also requires me to hone in on his interests, as well as making sure that, hey, I don't plan an activity that goes over his allotted attention span, or it's just gonna go downhill really fast. And so what I started doing is I started to focus on his interests, and whatever interest your child may have, you need to kind of schedule your learning around that. Just plan the learning around that. And that way, your child will be engaged and excited, and it really won't feel like they're learning. It's just something about when you pull out a book or paper and a pencil, that just really sometimes for the special needs learner can produce anxiety and just really get them just not wanting to learn. But if you can hone in on their interests, then it makes it exciting for them, and then they kind of let down their guards, and they're like, oh, okay, well, this is something that I like. And you can kind of go from there. And once I started doing that with my son, it really made a difference. He likes Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and so I started kind of tailoring some of the lessons around that. He also, at that time, he liked Paw Patrol. And so I started um, planning lessons around Paw Patrol. So whatever interest that he had, that's what I started planning the lessons around. And so it was less screaming, it was less stress for me, it was less stress for him. So always plan your lessons around their interests. And then number two, to keep them excited and engaged, you also need to find out when are they most ready to learn. We all have a time of the day where we are the most receptive and productive to learn, and our special needs learner are no different. They have certain times of the day where if we are going to work with them, that they are going to be more alert and excited and engage. I know with my son, it's the same way. His most productive time for learning is early in the morning, anywhere from that 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Now that's Eastern time, and so anything in the afternoon, it just kind of goes downhill from there. Particularly if I'm trying to teach him something that uh, kind of requires him to be sitting down, it's just not going to happen. We have speech therapy in the afternoon, and sometimes it's a struggle because it's not during his most receptive period of the day. And so we had to adjust. We have two speech therapies twice a week. And so on Tuesdays, he has one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Now, the one in the afternoon, unfortunately, I cannot change. But the one in the morning time, I've noticed he's more open and receptive and he's engaged and he's productive. But the one in the afternoon, he just goes, it just goes bad each and every time. But no, I'm kind of on the school system's speech therapy schedule. If I could change it to the morning on another day, I would, but they won't allow it. But long story short, know the time of day when your child is best able to learn, and that will help them to be excited and engaged. And another tip that I learned about the special needs learner to keep them excited and engaged is to use games. Who doesn't like playing games? I mean, I like playing games just to kind of help me to relax and relieve some stress. And our special needs learners are no different from us. And so I incorporate a lot of games into our learning. And I use a lot of board games because board games teach a lot of skills as well. They teach taking turns and sharing and paying attention and counting and all those things. You have to be able to focus. You got to be able to sit for a period of time to have your turn and to do what the game requires you to do. And it doesn't have to be a complex game. We play Candyland, and Candyland is a simple game, and it allows my son to be able to participate and just have fun, and he learns some concepts along the way. And then also, if you are the creative type, then you can create your own game. You can go on Amazon and you can buy these game spinners and get you some card stock, and you can make your little spinner, and then you can also buy a little game mat that's also available on Amazon, and you can just be creative and come up with your own game. But board games are a good way to keep your special needs learner excited and engaged. And also along the lines of games is digital games, online games such as Kahoot. If you visit Kahoot.com, they have an assortment of games that teachers have created, and you could even create your own Kahoot game that is specifically tailored to your special needs learner. I do that as well. And Kahoot is simple to play, and they receive immediate feedback on their answers, and it just doesn't seem like learning. Another game that I use with my son is that he loves Jeopardy, and there's a online version of Jeopardy. I believe it's called Jeopardy Labs, and for $20 you can purchase it, and I fill it in with things that he needs to know. And so when we do that, he's engaged, he's excited, and I don't require him to sit down. If he needs to run around, that's fine, as long as you are listening. And that's the thing about our special needs learners. They don't always have to be looking at us to be learning. They're learning whether they're not looking at us, and it seems to us that they're not paying attention, but they really are. And so these games have been a godsend for us to keep him engaged. And he also likes Family Feud, and so I found a PowerPoint template that I use, and that has just been a godsend too, because it's in his interest and it helps to keep his attention and focus. And so it is just amazing what games can do for the special needs learner. And so, if you haven't tried any of these things, I would highly encourage you to do so, because learning doesn't have to be so stiff and so rigid and so, okay, well, we gotta do a workbook and a worksheet and this and that. No, we have to redefine what it means to learn, and especially for our special needs learners, because they don't learn, as I said earlier, like the typical learner does. And so we have to modify and adjust their learning materials in such a way that they are willing to learn. And another way that I keep my special needs son engaged is I take learning outside. No one likes to be cooped up in the house for learning. And learning, there's so much stuff that's available in nature that we can learn from just by going outside in your backyard. And that's what I do. I take my special needs son out into our backyard. I also have a 5-year-old as well, but he's neurodiverse. And we go out into the backyard and we bird watch. And we also have a a little segment that we do called Backyard Bug Adventures, where we go on a bug hunt and we identify bugs. There's an app, I think it's called Insect Inspector, or something. But anyway, you can go to your app store, the Google Play Store, and find an app about identifying bugs. But we do that, and we find out about different bugs. We even found a lizard in our backyard that we have called Pete. And so when we go out in the backyard, we're looking for Pete, and we use our mobile devices to record videos of, say, Pete when we find Pete, as well as we found a frog. So we learn about frogs, and then there's bees. We learn about bees. So there's just so many things in nature that you can learn from, and also teach your special needs learner to keep them engaged. And then while you're out there as well, I always take some bubble blower and we blow bubbles, and we talk about why why some bubbles stay in the air longer than others. Uh, on a windy day, we have pinwheels, and we will go outside and we will have experiments about wind using pinwheels. And then there's also apps that you can download from the App Store, the Google Play Store, that helps you to be able to measure the speed of the wind. So there's so many different things in nature that we can teach our special needs learners to keep them engaged. And we have a swing set in our backyard, and my son, he loves to get on the swing and swing, and that helps with his occupational therapy. That helps to calm him down. And so while he's swinging, we may sing songs. And so don't ever underestimate the ability to teach your special needs learner in whatever they're doing, because they are listening and they are ready. You just have to make sure that they are ready. I think sometimes the mistake that we make with special needs learner is sometimes we underestimate what they can do. And so once I stopped doing that, I started pushing my son. And there's some, I get some resistance and everything, and I know, okay, well, you got to take your foot off the gas and put it on the brake for a little bit, and then just give it just a little bit of gas. But as we continue to work with our children, we know what they're capable of, and so I would also encourage you to learn what their learning style is. For example, with my son, he's a uh, kinesthetic, visual, tactile, auditory learner. He has to be moving. He cannot sit still. So I have to incorporate some kind of movement into his learning to keep him engaged. And that works. I'm like, hey, as long as I know you're listening, and I can teach you. I don't care if you move. In the public school setting, students have to sit at their desks, and they have to have their eyes focused on the teacher and everything. But in a homeschool setting for our special needs learners, hey, I let my child, I'm like, look, if you have to move, you just have to move. And we have a big exercise ball that he can sit on and bounce up and down to help him regulate himself, and that's fine. So as long as he's moving, I know he's getting the input that his body needs because of his sensory processing disorder. And I will construct obstacle courses within our home because his nervous system needs that because of his sensory processing disorder. And so I'll have him to complete a obstacle course where he may jump on the trampoline for 10 times, and then he may get on a scooter board and pull himself, and he may go to the wall and he'll do 10 wall push-ups, and then he'll jump through these little hoops that will jump to different hoops that I have placed on the floor, and then I have a tunnel that he crawls through. So by the time he finishes that, his body has received the input that it needs to be calm and to be regulated for a moment, and then he's ready to learn. And so that came with years of study. So whatever your child needs to be able to move, provide it for them. If they need some fidgets, give them some fidgets. Let's not be so rigid in our trying to teach them that we don't give them the resources that they need. And as I mentioned, my son is visual. He learns better with visual. Auditory is like his last learning style. He's not good at listening, but visual, he's a visual learner. So I try to make sure that the things that we are learning and doing are of a visual nature so that he can be able to learn and stay engaged as well. And so also tactile, he likes to touch things. And so I create sand boxes. I get some kinetic sand, and I'll hide things in the sand. I'll get these little beads that have words on them, and I'll hide it in the sand, and he has to find them either with his hands or a pair of tongues. So that in itself keeps him engaged, and he likes the feel of the sand. And so all of this plays into his learning. And the learning doesn't have to always look like what we think it has to look like. And on the same lines of that, I have putty that he uses for occupational therapy, and I'll hide beads or coins or things in the putty for him to find. And so all of these things are contributing to him learning. They're working for him the way that he needs these things to work. And so as long as he's learning and he's utilizing his learning styles and I'm teaching towards his learning styles, it's a win-win for everyone. And that's what homeschooling is all about. Being able to tailor the learning to the needs of the student. And it took me a long time to realize that, and but I'm glad I learned it, and especially with our special needs learners, because it helps reduce a lot of the frustration and the aggravation and the irritation that both you may have and your child may have during the learning process. And it's not a struggle trying to just teach something. And so after you do determine your child's learning style, that in itself can help keep your child excited and engaged about learning. And one of the last things I want to leave you with about keeping your special needs learner excited and engaged is plan a field trip. These have been a godsend for us because they get to explore the world around them. And a lot of times, I know with the special needs learner, depending on the severity of their special needs, it can be challenging to take them out in public and have interaction with others. But we have to do it. And so I've had to deal with some things that people have said to me about my son. He likes to go, well, before the pandemic, we used to get out and on Fridays and we had Foodie Friday. We would go to a local ice cream place here where we live, and he and his brother, they would get their ice cream and their french fries and everything. But we went to the place once, and the lady who worked in there, she really didn't want us to be in there. But I was like, no, we're gonna be in here. And so take them on field trips. Field trips doesn't always have to look like what we think. It can be trying a new restaurant. Once I took my both of my sons to a farm, a strawberry farm. And so we actually picked strawberries. That was my first time ever picking strawberries. And my two sons were just excited and they were engaged. My special needs son, he actually picked strawberries and he enjoyed the experience. And we did hay rides, and we just walked around the farm and we played games while we were out there at the farm, and we learned about how our food is grown and how the food gets from the farm to the grocery store. So don't underestimate the power of a field trip. A field trip can really help, not only with a change of scenery, but it can also help your special needs learner to be excited to, number one, be in a new environment and to be able to learn something new. And of course, we all have to take our precautions with our special needs kids, because depending on their severity, I know with my son, sometimes he can be a runner, and so I have to always be prepared just in case he decides to run off or wander off. So, just make sure that you have your protocols in place. I know I always have all kinds of protocols in place when I take my special needs son out. I always take a picture of him before we leave so that I know I can accurately describe what he had on in the event that he should happen to wander off, and things of that nature. You always have to uh, think and plan for the worst, but hope for the best. And so, but I don't want to discourage you from doing the field trips, because we've done a lot of field trips. We've even gone to Disney World. And you may say, well, Disney World in education. Well, yes, it is. We went to, with its geography, we went to another state. So we went to another state, and we learned about the climate there. We learned about the economy there. Hey, we learned entrepreneurship. We learned about Walt Disney. So, hey, anything can be made educational and exciting. And that's my outlook on homeschooling. Just think outside the box. Everything doesn't have to be black and white. It as long as it works for you and your special needs learner, that's all that matters. So I hope that the information that I have provided to you helps you to be able to not only get your special needs learner excited about learning, but also get yourself excited about learning. I know sometimes it can be very, very challenging when you're dealing with our special needs learners, because they have a lot that's going on within them, and sometimes they can verbally communicate that to us, and sometimes they can, and we have to become detectives to figure out, okay, what's going on, what's wrong, how can I help you. And so it can be very challenging and stressful, but I encourage you to continue to hang in there and continue to uh, research your child and study your child and see what is the best methods for keeping them excited and engaged. And so, what works for one person may not work for another. So, keep an open mind and don't be afraid to try new things, because the new thing that you try might be the one thing that catches on. And so, anything can be educational. And then I'll give you this little one bonus tip that I use to keep my special needs son excited and engaged in learning. And we have started cooking. And so cooking involves a lot of skills. There's math, there's reading, there's following instructions, and so there's patience involved. So all of these key things are involved in cooking. And so I get him involved in cooking. I have purchased kid safe knives that he won't cut himself using a knife. And so I'm teaching him how to cut up vegetables. And he just enjoys himself and he enjoys the process. We made banana bread, we made cookies, we made cakes. And so there's so many different things that we can teach our children just by cooking, and them just being close to us. And a lot of our special needs learners, that's what they need to feel safe and secure and feel loved. And that's the main thing. They need to feel loved, and that's what homeschooling can provide for them, to help them stay excited and engaged. So I hope that the information I have provided will help you and your special needs learner to be excited and engaged. And if you need any additional resources, you can always email me at lsims, that's SIMS, just one M, at lisateachme.com. And so, and you can also follow me online on Facebook. It's Lisa Sims Teach Me, and on Instagram, Lisa Teach Me. So I hope this information has been beneficial. I know it's been beneficial to me. And so take this information and go forth and help your special needs learner to be excited and engaged about learning.